How do we deal with the fact that we're trying to innovate? And remember, innovation has to imply impact. It's not just creativity. How do we innovate for impact when we're trying to hit a changing and ill-defined target? That's the second problem we have to solve through innovation. So if you're in an environment where there's a low level of risk or uncertainty, I think the traditional approach works quite well. I think you can basically take it into the lab, decompose it, analyze it, detail it out, hand it to the organization, say, go execute. And in fact, if you're doing certain static jobs, like let's say you're building a big building, that's precisely how you should build a big building, because you're not assuming the conditions are going to change while you're building the building. The land's still going to be there. The foundation's going to be in the same condition as you expect it to be. You have a set of assumptions about what you're going to find, and then it's a detailed plan about how we're going to go build the building. Very static environment. Unfortunately, that's not the reality of most businesses today. We're living in high-risk environments. And what we have found through this study of companies that have sustained high performance for long periods of time, they've had to do that under very varied and ill-behaved market conditions. They're not using traditional linear Cartesian planning. They're using a different approach that recognizes the limits of strategic analysis, that incorporates learning into the process, and that realizes you have to engage a broader set of people in the thinking, not just the doing, when it comes to growth. So look at this model. Instead of doing a SWOT analysis that says, strengths, weaknesses, here are the opportunities, threats, here's the environmental analysis, far more important in this model is to win the hearts and minds of the organization, to recognize that they have to get down on the playing field and be part of the process of figuring out where our future lies as an organization. Therefore, building a compelling case for action that says this business is not just about running or operating this business and at the margin incrementally adjusting and improving it each year. No, we have to have a vision-driven organization where we have defined out on the horizon a place we want to get to 3 to 5 years from now. We're redefining who we want to be. I'll create that vision untethered by any reality of how on earth am I going to get there. Right? I'm not worried about the details yet. But you build a vision of where you want to get to, but you have to have an organization where people in their hearts and minds absolutely want to get there. And for that to happen, there has to be a case for action why staying where we are is just not an acceptable choice. So then you build your vision. Think of a vision not as a strategy. It's a sketch. It's evocative, and it's detailed enough that people get it, and it's very hard-edged. It's not motherhood and apple pie. It's a very hard-edged statement about hard choices about who we do and don't want to be when we get out there. Typically, a vision is going to involve some definition of which customers, which products, which channels, which geographies, those kinds of things, but it may include a whole lot more than that. So I have my vision. It's out on a horizon 3 to 5 years away. How do I get there? I don't get there by building a big moon launch plan to basically detail out how I get to that, because there's so much uncertainty I have to absorb between today and that 5-year period. There's so much I have to learn that all I can ever affect is I can do 2 things. I can move in the direction of the vision incrementally, but I should at each step make sure it's adding value in terms of revenue and growth to the organization. So I'm accomplishing 2 objectives simultaneously with every initiative that I put into the growth portfolio. As I'm stepping forward, what I'm looking for is a compounding effect from each of these initiatives that build me toward that vision. So why does vision become important? Because if every initiative is just about 5% better, well, if you do 10 initiatives but they're in 10 different directions, you're just 5% better. What if you do 10 initiatives in one particular direction? There's one particular component of the vision, what I'll call a strategic priority. And let us say that strategic priority is to be able to build out an expertise in how the client uses our products so we can build these value-added services that differentiate ourselves. Each is a small incremental step in that direction, but by doing them all against a vision out on the horizon, I get the compounding effect, and you'd be amazed what 10, 5% better initiatives can do for you if they're stacked up on top of each other. That's the purpose of vision. And therefore, you deploy against the vision through a set of growth initiatives. But where do you do the growth initiatives? The vision has to tell you What are those strategic priorities? What's that small set of swim lanes in which I'm going to invite the organization to innovate in practical ways that deliver real financial benefit today, but directionally move me toward the vision? And each year, I'm going to revisit that vision. I'm going to revisit those strategic priorities. I could be wrong on some of this stuff, and it may be the case that that vision has to move 20 degrees to the left. So it has that ability to be dynamic and adjusting to either changing conditions or the fact that our analysis was a little bit off. What those strategic priorities then do is they typically will last for somewhere around 12, 18 months. You know, you're going to have a set of them that says, look, for the next 18 months, I want to focus the organization on these 3 things to accomplish that vision. Now, how do I invite the organization to give me their best thinking? How do I get my clients to tell me what I should be doing in those swim lanes? How do I look by analogy at other industries, what they're doing, say, what could I learn from them? And then those initiatives, the best of them that are pressure tested and proven to work, are the things that I put directly then into action. So what's the summary and what's the conclusion on this? The 2 areas we got to innovate are go-to-market and the quality of the offer. All right? Every firm seems to manage the product part well, doesn't do the rest of the stuff very well. The value of having a structured, formalized process is you become more effective, more efficient over time. What do we need to do this? First thing we need is a strategy, high-level strategy, that identifies vision. What are we heading toward? Because that becomes the second judge as to whether this is an impactful initiative, the other judgment being financial impact through revenue and gross profits. Second thing we need is we need to know what the swim lanes are. What's the small set of priorities where we're really going to focus the energy of the organization to innovate? Next thing we need is we need the ability to build a superabundance of growth concepts, just ideas, right? Rich vein of ideas. Next thing we need, how do we process those concepts into things worthy of investment? Next thing we then do is construct the growth portfolio, deploy, scale, monitor for results. Suddenly you take growth from a game of chance, hoping that strategy was correct, to in fact be more of a game of skill, because we've incorporated learning and proof points and validation into the process. If you want to have growth on a sustained basis, we have to retune those management systems for how we plan and how we control, for how we manage talent, for how we build values and norms and culture within the organization, for how we make decisions about who gets to decide, the distribution of decision rights. That we have to retune those things so that they facilitate and enable growth, rather than in too many firms right now, they substantially inhibit growth. One very large, highly admired company in the United States has made a big deal for the past 7 years about their ambition and expectation that they're going to grow. And this is a firm that's grown bottom line performance year after year, but boy, do they struggle to grow that company. And it's a highly admired firm for their management systems, but unfortunately most of their management systems are skewed toward productivity improvements. If you go inside that firm and you look at their talent, they're very talented people. They put brilliant strategies together for growth. They have no shortage of strategy. The problem is, then when it comes to actually building out growth initiatives, they don't have those kind of people. They've got people who are good at driving productivity improvement. They also don't tolerate those kind of expenses, right? So they haven't invested to grow. And those things tend to get systematically wiped out and thrown in the furnace for lower cost. And so as smart as they are and as good as they are at building strategies for growth, they aren't able to do the hard work of innovating for growth. And it's because their management system is skewed in an entirely different direction. And until they recognize that, they're going to continue to frustrate themselves and frustrate the marketplace about their inability to grow. When I look across our economy and I look at the companies that are struggling with growth these days, and there are far too many that are struggling with growth, what I hear as I listen to executives is I hear executives blaming the marketplace. Oh, we're not growing. Look, have you seen what happened to our market? We're not growing. How could you grow in that market? And you say to them, well, gosh, for the market to be limiting your ability to growth, you must be a very high share of that marketplace, because you're obviously bumping your head up against the limits of growth. And they go, oh, no, we're like 4% or 12% of the market. How on earth can you blame the size of market growth when you're just a tiny portion of that market? It just seems silly. The challenge of growth isn't in the marketplace, almost ever. The challenge of growth is in the management team. If your firm isn't comfortable or confident in its ability to grow organically, it's not because the market isn't letting you grow. It's because you don't know how to grow in the market. And not knowing how to grow might not be a problem of strategy, which is the first instinct people reach to. They go, oh, I need a better plan. That might not be the problem. The problem might be that that plan, as enticing and alluring as it is, actually isn't good. It's not accurate. It won't survive first contact with the marketplace. And therefore, maybe we need a different way of innovating to generate a really powerful plan. And beyond that, maybe we need a management system that facilitates that kind of activity by promoting the kind of people and encouraging the kind of activity that will go into that.